Hello there, everyone. It is Success Story Day here at Inspired Coach Podcast, and I'm incredibly excited to introduce you to our very special, caring, unique, and amazing guest, Karen Marie Johnston. Let me tell you a little bit more about Karen. Karen is a multi-award-winning trauma and nervous system informed coach, social worker, and supervisor. She's a consultant and trainer for UK charity and statutory sector organisations and specialises in working with marginalised and underserved communities. She organises beautiful retreats and works one-on-one with women in recovery from addiction, disordered eating, and mental health challenges. Karen is obsessed with supporting women to rebuild a loving relationship with themselves so they can move beyond their past and live the lives they truly deserved. She has also worked with women in the sex industry for 2 decades. So, Karen is a very beloved, special, and admired member of the Beautiful You Coaching Academy alumni. And she is that for many, many reasons. One of the main ones, I think, is because Karen has such a deep passion for making coaching more equitable and accessible to people that otherwise might not be able to afford it, access it, or even somehow or another believe that they are worthy of working with a coach. And not only does Karen do that, but she does so while working in her business full-time and managing, creating, and living with that very successfully and well. She is proof that you can do good and great things with your coaching and your business and serve incredible people who may need you the most, and also make sure that your business serves you too. What a success story. I know that you're going to love Karen so much. Enjoy this interview with her ahead. Karen Marie Johnston, welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast. I'm so delighted to have you on today talking about your incredible success story.
Julie, I could not be happier than here talking to you today about this.
Oh, well, I'm so delighted. And just to give everyone a little bit of context, Karen, as I'm sure you can tell from the accent, is from the UK. She's from England. But is in Australia right now. And so it's really lovely to be talking to you during when both of us are in daylight hours, because usually when we talk, one of us is deep in the night in some way. So you have been here because, of course, Karen, you recently came out to Australia to attend and speak at our latest Inspiration Day and were crowned our Europe Coach of the Decade. And I'm going to get back to that wonderful occasion soon. But let's go back a little bit and start with Karen pre-deciding that you wanted to be a coach. When did the idea first come to you, hey, I think I might like to train to be a life coach?
So I had been working as a social worker for 2 decades, and I'd had a really difficult year in social work, and I'd been quite ill. It was burnout, and I was physically ill and ended up hospitalised, and it was pretty extreme. And I had a moment of clarity in the hospital where I knew I couldn't continue to do full-time social work and full-time single parenting, which is what I'd done for all of my adult life. And I'd always taken groups of women away for residential weekends as part of my social work. So I'd done parenting courses for teenage mums. We'd taken groups of women who had exited sex work away as residential groups. So I wanted to go into business doing that, taking groups away on retreats. So I always knew that I wanted to do that. So I'd started listening to business podcasts because I have no idea about business because I'm just, out in the field doing this work. And I came across the podcast, and I think I've told you this story. It was Carrie Green's podcast, and she's a UK female entrepreneur, and she had interviewed you. And I was listening to you, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this lady, this person, Julie, you, has made the transition out of social work and into business. And I'd never heard anyone do that. I'd never seen anybody in my line of work or in nursing or in teaching or any of these professions make that transition. So I heard you. I then did all of the research on you, read every review.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I read, and I found this beautiful review from somebody that we both know about her experience of training with you. And then I started going onto the website and reading about coaching. And I was like, I had never heard, I'd sort of heard of it, but I thought it was just men in business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hadn't really heard of it. And then I was like, oh, okay. So I've been coaching my whole life, which is saying to the human being in front of me, where are you now? And where do you want to be? And supporting that person to map that journey. And that's how I came across coaching.
Amazing. And once again, a reminder to me and to everyone listening right now, honestly, this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but an important one for everybody that's just listening to this right now. If you are ever offered an opportunity or see an opening for you to be on a podcast, unless there is a really, really good reason why you should say no, please say yes, because this is just another example of how you don't even have to necessarily be promoting yourself and your work. You can be in service to other people. And I remember specifically that interview with Carrie was around something very specific, supporting her community, and you can still attract people towards you. And so I am so grateful to Carrie. Carrie, I am sending out love to you right now across the waves for bringing us, Karen, into this community. I'm so, so grateful that you did. Karen, there was something really interesting that you said there. Was almost like a throwaway line, but I want to pick up on it because I know that it's something that many people feel. You said, I didn't know business. I don't know anything about business. It's like, sort of like, that's not my wheelhouse. It's not my thing. But obviously the pull towards coaching was significant enough for you to still say yes and somewhat commit to yourself. I'm going to work that out. I'm not going to let that stand in my way. The fact that I don't really know what I'm doing with the business side of things. I've never run a business before, but this is what I want to do, and I'm just going to step in and say yes.
Yeah, I knew it was a big area of growth for me, and I've listened to a lot of business podcasts and access a lot of free resources, and I'm completely self-taught. I guess everyone is some people have been to uni and done business, so they're not self-taught. Okay,
most not. I think that's an important. No, I'm self-taught in business as well. I'd never run a business before. I was a social worker. I was a counsellor. I had never done anything like that before. And I certainly know now, having trained thousands of coaches around the world, that the overwhelming majority of them are self-taught when it comes to business. There is a very, very little number of them that say, for example, have studied marketing or have an MBA or have studied PR or something in some way. That is not the case, I would say, easily in 99% of cases.
Yeah, and in some ways I feel like it's been an advantage because I haven't ever altered who I am to kind of appeal to a business type audience. Does that, I haven't understood all of the kind of ways to show up and all of the, I know it's all rules that don't actually really exist, but some of that, I think some of that stuff has really been beneficial to me, and it's something people say to me is, well, how do you show up as yourself so much? And I just think, well, because I don't really know what the rules are. So it just...
Yeah, but you also break the rules too, I think.
Do I?
I believe that you do, because there has always been in your marketing elements of rawness and realness and vulnerability that you have been very, very embracing of. And of course, this is not for everybody. You know, I was only having a conversation with a client this morning who has been wrestling with whether to tell a particular part of her childhood story, and somehow or another getting a little bit tangled that if she doesn't tell that story, she's somehow or another being inauthentic. And I've said to her, no, that's not the case at all. We do not have to tell everything about ourselves to be authentic and genuine online. But for some of us, that real vulnerability and rawness and openness is something that we become known for. And I think that it is something that you're now known for.
Yeah, and I think that it's taken time to become comfortable with all of the aspects of my lived experience and work experience, actually. And also I don't tell all the things.
No.
You know? Never. It's just what, you know, if it feels appropriate and it feels like it's going to be something that somebody can feel more connected to themselves and the work that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Karen, you make this decision to become a coach, and you start studying and you undertake the Beautiful You Life Coaching course. Tell us, what was the study experience like for you? Was learning to be a coach, or really you undertaking a path of remembering and enhancing the coaching that you knew that you were already doing in your work? Was it what you expected, or did it have surprises for you along the way?
Yeah, it had lots of surprises, really good surprises. I used to drive to my safeguarding job and listen to the calls on the way into work as well. They were quite early in the morning, and I just loved them. I don't think I missed a call. I was there for pretty much all of them. I loved the learning. I loved that I was encouraged to have a beginner's mind, because, you know, I have quite a lot of education around working with people. So that was so helpful, and just the way that you taught running a business, and the things that have really stood with me is impeccable client care, and really taking care of the human being in front of you, pre them working with you, while they're working with you, and post working with you, and just being, holding that person. I mean, I hold my community so dear to my heart all the time. You know, I could cry thinking about how dear they are to me, but that I don't think I would have. I don't think our retreats would have been such beautiful places for people to come had I not had that real client care piece from you.
Yeah, wonderful. And Karen, I want to talk to you about your now many, many sold out retreats in a moment, but I would love to ask you, once you graduated, tell us about the realness of the first 12 months out, because now, many years later, after you've finished your study, you're running a very successful full-time business. Now, as a coach, you are no longer working in the fields that you once did, even though, of course, they continue to influence you deeply, because I know my work from that time influences me deeply as well. But you're now thriving in a full-time business as a coach and an entrepreneur. But take us back to the first 12 months. What was that like out for you, and what really stood out for you about that time?
I was still working in social work for 3 days a week. I ran a retreat actually just as I graduated, and that was one of my goals when I was training, was to book a retreat and sell that. So, but I need to caveat that by saying that I already had a community of women, and that I was not starting from scratch with that. I already had a Facebook group because I'd already taken women away in my professional role. So that didn't just come from nowhere. So the retreat happened quite quickly, actually, just on the month that I'd graduated. The one-to-one work and talking about it in a way that felt congruent, I found incredibly difficult. I found the process of, working out who I was speaking to, what I was speaking to them about, the method, the way that I worked, and all of these things I found incredibly difficult, but I just did, I just put out something that was okay rather than perfect. And I did show up consistently. So I've always shown up on social media from day one. I didn't even have social media, by the way, before I started this process. I'd never been on Instagram. So all of that, all of the marketing, I found really difficult. How to say, how to call people in and how to talk about my work, I found incredibly difficult. And it took the one-to-one aspect of my work took a really long time to build up. And yeah, I think it's really important, building a community, not just an audience, has taken a really long time, and it has involved relationships and building relationships, and that takes time. We can't fast track. You can't fast track intimacy in your relationships with people, and people do have to feel like they know you and like you and trust you, but also that they want to. That doesn't mean that they're going to step towards you either. That I never take that for granted. It's it's something I never take for granted. That people do that.
Yeah. Karen, there is so much gold in so many things that you said there, and for everybody listening, about how good, solid, foundational businesses take time, about how important relationships are, about showing up, and that even if you feel to yourself, well, it's not perfect, but it's better done than perfect. And you mentioned about consistency in there, so many things. But these are the non-sexy things, Karen. These are the non-sexy but actually realistic things that go into building a business, but so few people are willing to talk about. There is a lot of talk out there, isn't it, about doing things quickly and hacking our way through things and looking for tips and tricks, and almost like there is a code or a back a back way to success, but there just isn't, is there? It's different for everybody, but I certainly know the foundationally incredible, sustainably successful businesses I'm seeing out there have all of the things that you've just mentioned in common.
Yeah, and it's taken me 5 years. I want to be really transparent. I did not give up my social work job until last year, and it's taken 5 years for me to be financially secure enough to be able to let go of that. Then that's 5 years of really consistent relationship building and community building. That's not a quick situation. That's a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, it is a considerable amount of time, but also, again, I'm thinking about our beautiful listeners today as they're hearing this success story. And everyone, I want you to just think about this for a moment. If you knew that it would take you 5 years of consistently showing up, building relationships, putting yourself out there, honing your craft as a coach, for you to then know that you would be able to step into a full-time business, would you do it? There's a question for you to consider. Or is this something for you that if it doesn't happen in 9 months, you're out?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't happen in 18 months, you're out. If if it was going to take 5 years and you knew that that was going to be the end result? And I think that these are questions that we have to ask ourselves as coaches, because despite all of the marketing, while it can happen sooner than that for some, and it has for many others, that is the length of time that this can take to reach that particular point. And of course, within all of those 5 years, you were coaching part-time anyway. And so you were still doing lots of wonderful things, weren't you?
Yeah, I was coaching and I was doing supervision and I was running retreats. Yeah. And I think if lockdown hadn't have happened, because we were mainly in-person business, lockdown was really devastating for my business in so many ways. I wasn't one of those people whose business took off during lockdown. My business was pretty decimated because we had to cancel all of the retreats that we had already sold out. So that, definitely held up the progression for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it may have been sooner than that. We just can't know. So Karen, let's talk about these wonderful retreats that make up such a huge part of your success. How many retreats have you sold out now? Like, these are retreats that go over a long weekend, aren't they?
Yeah, and we do 7 a year.
Oh!
I know.
7 retreats a year. I run one and I'm like, woo, that's enough. But you run 7. These really are the backbone, aren't they, of your business, these beautiful personal development retreats?
Yeah, they really are. And they're big events. A lot of retreats are quite small numbers. We have 30 women and on each one. So, yeah, I have a team now of... When we started, there was only 3 of us, so now there's 7. So my team has expanded, and yeah, they are just the most beautiful weekends ever. I mean, I'm biased, but I just love them, and they serve a community of women that would not ordinarily get access to the coaching industry or coaching as a modality, and they wouldn't necessarily step foot inside a yoga studio or do some of the other therapeutic body-based work that we do on those retreats. So yeah, they're for a group of people that isn't ordinarily served by the industry.
Let's talk about that a little bit deeper, Karen, because it would be just such a shame if we didn't, because I know that this is a really deep passion of yours, and that is making the coaching industry more equitable, more accessible, and seeing it shift away from any sort of corners where it's only for, the very financially privileged. Tell us a little bit more about your passion for that and what you're doing in that space.
Well, I think the passion comes from being a single mum and not having the resources myself to access those things. I wouldn't have been able to access group coaching or one-to-one coaching for most of my life. It also came from feeling that I didn't fit into yoga communities for loads of reasons. I mean, just even lived experience on its own can contribute towards feeling that, you don't quite fit into these places. So I had looked at going on retreats myself, and I couldn't find a retreat that I wanted to go on. And that was the truth. And so I made it. I created the retreat that I would want to go on that I knew that when I walked into that room, I would know that my lived experience and what I had been through and who I was would be welcome there. And so that was the environment that I wanted to create, and I think we've done that because people come back. So it's a good indicator that we're doing it well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And many of the women that go on these retreats, they are not, they're low income earning or receiving government support and benefits and things like that. And so this makes me want to ask you, Karen, when your clientele, and I know that you do wonderful supervision with coaches and you work with other types of clients in different ways, but this is a major part of your clientele, low income earning women identifying people. And so tell us about that and the connection between you thriving successfully in your business full time. And here's the reason I ask that, is that a lot of people, and I know you know where I'm going, is that a lot of people make the assumption that you can't do good in your business, that you can't have things like sliding scales or do a lot of pro bono work or have lower cost offerings extensively and make, in inverted commas, good money that allows you as a human being to thrive. And so bust some stuff open for us about this, because you're doing it. You're absolutely doing it, and it is possible, isn't it?
It's absolutely possible, but you do need more people in your community, you know. So again, it comes back to what is the community that you want to create, and how do you look after the people in it? Because I would have to sell one low-cost program to, say, 75, 100 people to make the same money that one person would make selling one high ticket to one individual. Now, the women in that community benefit hugely from the work that we do, and the impact, therefore, is huge, because the ripple effects of that work, I know, go into their families. And so for me, it feels like a win-win, because the impact is great, and it just, that's the way it's evolved, you know, and so that I have just gone with that, and it feels absolutely right for me. I can hold big space though, so I can hold big groups. I think that's important to say, you know, that's not for everyone. Holding 75 people on Zoom is not for everybody, but I love it. I love that. I love big groups. I love all the things that go on in big groups, especially in person. I like the kind of unpredictability of that, you know. I'm happy there. I can do that. So yeah, you will need to work with bigger groups of people and charge them less. You know?
Yep, that's just part of the model. If you want to call it that is potentially going to be necessary. And of course, there will be some people listening to this that go, well, that's not me. And that's absolutely okay, but it doesn't mean that you can't do amazingly good things in your business for those people that you do work with, and that benefits your nervous system and upholds you and how you want to, you know, work and grow and all of those kinds of things. So Karen, we mentioned at the start of the episode that you have recently just been named our Europe Coach of the Decade, no less. Congratulations to you. You know, it was such a joy for me to see you in person, to accept that award. You are somebody that is so deeply respected and loved within our community. Did you ever think to yourself that, look at she's nodding, she's like going, shaking. No, Julie's shaking the head. It's like, did you ever possibly think to yourself that coaching and running a coaching business would take you to where it's taken you now?
Not in a million years. I can remember, Julie, coming to the Inspiration Day in London and looking at the people on the stage and being in absolute awe of how they spoke and how they were and how they moved through the world. And I didn't move through the world like that then 4 years ago. You know, I've really had to step into the version of me that can sit on the stage confidently with a microphone and say, this is what I do, this is who I am. That's been such a steep learning curve for me, and being there and being able to do that and being able to accept the award in person, I didn't take 1 second. I know you know this, but I did not take 1 second of that for granted. Not one.
Well, Karen, we are just so proud of you and everything that you do. I would like to wrap up the interview today by asking you just one question. And I could keep going on forever, but you are doing such good, in inverted commas, in your business. You are a shining example of someone in the coaching industry who's thriving successfully personally and also helping so many other people in rippled communities out there that otherwise would not get access to coaching services do the same. I'd love to ask you, for anybody that is listening right now and is thinking to themselves, okay, I want to be Karen Marie Johnston, but me, when I grow up, when my coaching shoes are big, and I want to step into that greatness and that goodness, what do you have to share with them?
That you need to take impeccable care of yourself, of your heart, of your, just the thoughts that I think I have to challenge a lot. I have to make sure that the way that I speak to myself is endlessly encouraging and kind and supportive, and I've had to learn to do that. I have had to learn to honour all of the feelings that I have about all of the things and be real about those and tender with my emotional world, and I've had to look after my physical self. Because without that, there's absolutely no way that I would be able to do what I do now. That has to come first. It always has come. It hasn't always come first, but since the hospitalisation moment, it needed to come first, and that's the bottom line.
Beautiful. Karen, thank you so much for being with us. We are so absolutely delighted to have you as a member of our community, and congratulations on all of your success.
Thank you, Julie. It is just the joy of my life to be here with you today.
Thank you.